Hi, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Dying Ways podcast with Dale Heim. Today we'll be talking about the influence of animals on the dying and telling some heartwarming stories of animal interactions. Let's start with something that you said last time, Dale. So, in a previous episode, you mentioned that as nurses, you're trained to keep animals off the bed for hygienic reasons, but that you tell families to let them stay. Why is it so important that people keep their animals with them in their final days?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm an old school nursing sister, meaning I trained in the year dot. And in the year dot, all we could think about was infection control. So to us, an animal coming into a sick area meant that my patient was going to become infected. But we have found that because dogs and cats are so highly attuned to human emotions, they pick up fear, they pick up anxiety, they pick up sadness and stress, and they are in tune with the body language of their human, their owner. We have found that to separate the human from his pet does not do the owner justice. It is better to allow the dog or the cat the interaction with their owner. And this has been happening more and more and more, especially in old age homes. A little old lady who is totally attached to her little dog, you don't take that dog away from her anymore. You keep that animal close to the patient.
So that makes sense. There's been a lot of research of late about the locus of care and the fact that somebody who is ailing will often do better if they have to take care of a living thing outside of themselves rather than only of themselves. Do you find that having to take care of an animal makes a positive impact on someone's final days?
Definitely. Simply, if you think about it in a simple form, if you have a responsibility to some other little humans, no, he's not human, other little life, which is a creature, you have to get up in the morning. You have to feed your dog. You have to take your cat out. You have a responsibility. And the moment you have something to do in your life, you become important in that animal's life. And we all want to have some form of importance. We all want a meaning in life. And an animal gives an owner meaning.
So, how do other medical staff think about this? Have you found that this acceptance of animals in palliative care is something that's very common in clinical environments these days?
I think that animals in palliative care have become, now we are catching up with what the rest of the world has been doing for years and years and years. I read a story about Dr. Peyo, P-E-Y-O, and that is the name of a huge stallion, brown stallion horse, who is used for healing purposes. And this is somewhere in France, and he is the known doctor for this particular palliative care unit. He goes in and he will stand in front of a door with his master, in front of a door of a patient. They open the door, and all he does is he walks in and he stands and he gives his healing energy to that particular patient who is needing the healing. But then, of course, somebody is going to say to me, why a horse? What is the healing energy of a horse? Well, a horse, just think of a horse. It's a huge animal. It offers an intense energy and an intense connection. It's A horse is always quiet, and you've got this quiet strength that surrounds you. They say that this horse Peyo is the reset button for patients. That's what he's known for, because he offers profound, quiet healing in this hectic world that they are in. So for me, this horse appears to be in a situation where he is used as for pain medication even. They say once he's been with the patient doesn't have that much pain. I have never, ever, ever worked with a horse this closely. I know what horses do. I purport that patients should go for the horse treatment. But the raw presence of a horse, the power and that untamed freedom, that quiet elegance of a horse, that is probably what the whole healing purpose is. And horses are in tune with energy. So they will pick up on a patient's energy long before we do, long before we do. But all animals appear to pick up on patients' energy before we do.
Okay, so I have come across mention before of people using horses for people doing non-verbal processing of trauma in their final days. And I know that you recommend to patients that come to you that they go to someone local to you. Can you tell us a bit more about equine therapy?
I can tell you about equine therapy as far as a lady who is in Clettenburg Bay who does equine therapy. And what she offers for her patients is simply they lie on a bed and the horse comes to them. It is the horse that offers the security. It's the horse that offers the healing modality. It is the hugeness of the horse. I don't actually know what it is that they connect with the horse or how the horse does the healing, but it's all about the energy from the horse. I myself have not had any healing from a horse. I've not done any of this healing. You take autistic children, or you take children that have never said a word, and you put them onto the back of a horse, and suddenly they have felt the energy through their little bodies of the horse, and you see this child for the first time smiling and wanting to talk, wanting to communicate. So what is it that they've picked up on? They've picked up on the horse's energy, and horses are calm. Horses are calm. They are not, we do get horses that have got steroids and been race horses. They're not calm. I know this. But the kind of horse that is used for healing purposes is a very, very nurtured and very calm animal.
Oh, yeah, and I suppose much like dogs, horses and humans have been working together since before we have recorded histories of these things. So it makes sense that there is a strong empathetic connection that's been built up over the thousands of years. Something that I've noticed locally is that a bunch of the better quality nursing homes will advertise themselves on the fact that they allow animals. Is that something that's common in your experience?
Was never ever common at all. It's only just become common. Well, not that common, but it is incorporated in a lot of nursing homes now, where you can go and take your doggy with you. But what has happened in the palliative care units, the palliative care nursing sisters have realized that our patients are on end stage. And what does it matter if the dog is going to get up onto the bed? What does it matter if the cat is going to get up onto the bed? So yes, we encourage it more and more and more because we can see the vibration between the animal and the human that is dying, or the human that is just the animal's owner. We can see the vibration. It is very, very healing for the patient.
So, on the note of vibrations, I wanted to dive into the story about Leo the cat a little bit. Could you just summarize the story for us?
Leo the cat was the biggest tabby that arrived out of thin air, arrived out of nowhere. I was attending to Geraldine. She'd had a bilateral mastectomy, and she was not coping with her chemotherapy. So the operation was signed, sealed, and her wounds all healed, but the chemotherapy was heavy for Geraldine. And on one occasion, she was at home, and this cat arrived. Leo, the cat arrived. She loved cats. Leo wanted food. Geraldine gave Leo food, and Leo moved in, lock, stock, and barrel. But unbeknown to Geraldine, Leo the cat knew why he'd moved in. He'd moved in to comfort her. So she would come from her chemotherapy treatment, climb up onto her bed, and Leo would, as the book says, he would puddle himself over her breast. And there he would lie and he would purr. But the reason that cats purr, they have got a vibrational frequency in the purr, which is used sometimes in healing modalities. So the purr from the cat was healing for Geraldine. She felt it, and there Leo stayed for the entire time she was having chemotherapy. And unfortunately, when Geraldine passed away, in all the confusion of Geraldine passing away, none of us saw Leo leave. And Leo just left. We couldn't find him. Geraldine went to her deathbed, and Leo went off to, as I said in the book, to find another patient to look after. I do not know why Leo left, but there was no trace of him.
So do you think that Leo was aware of what he was doing and what Geraldine's state was and the benefit he was providing?
I wonder about that. But if you think of it, cats do what they do normally. They purr. They purr when they're happy. And Leo found a very, very, very good home with Geraldine because he had a sunny place to lie in the sun when she was doing her chemo. When she came home from her chemo, he took up his place on her chest, and it was a match made in heaven. I don't think that there was anything that was preempted or anticipated. It was just his normal routine. He's a cat. He purrs. So he thought he was doing the right thing, I guess.
And so it seems that there have been studies showing that cat purrs are associated with bone healing, pain relief, reduced inflammation, lower stress, and lower blood pressure. So it makes sense that there is a very direct impact when people are in that much physiological stress of having, like, for however small that effect is, it's enough to make a difference to them. So,
I can only give you Geraldine's her take on this whole thing, and Geraldine said that Leo made her life worth living. So honestly and truly, what the cat did there was completely and utterly beautiful, really beautiful.
So do you think that, so Leo turned up out of nowhere to join Geraldine. Do you think that animals do that kind of thing quite often, and cats particularly, will come into someone's life for a specific chapter? Something that I remember hearing years ago was that cats come into your life to teach you a lesson that you need to learn.
Do they come into your life to teach you a lesson, or do they come into your life because they are the most solitary animals? They don't actually need mankind. They can survive quite well on their own. But every now and then I have an idea that they have to come into the space of a human being to interact because of their incredible vibration. I believe the whole earth is a vibration. I believe that we are vibration. And when you get a cat near you that has got such a huge vibrational force, I believe his purr was up to about 150 hertz. And this is something I know we use in machinery for healing. So this cat in particular found his way to people to heal and to give a service. Is this normal? I do not know. I do not know. But I honestly believe this cat knew what he was doing.
It makes sense. And I think we often think of animals as being dumb animals when they are much more intuitive than we realize. And
they are not dumb. There is nothing dumb about an animal. I think cats and dogs will pick up on a human's fear, their anxiety, their stress, their pain. They'll pick up when they're sad. They'll pick up when they're happy. Does the person that you live with in your house pick up on all of this all the time? Is he hypersensitive to your every move? Not like an animal, not like a dog or a cat. And you know that a parrot is probably the most sensitive animal when it comes to vibration. And it is the one animal that it attunes itself with the owner to the degree that it doesn't go to a second owner. It only wants that particular owner. And they live to a huge old age. I don't know how old they live to, but parrots, they have got an incredible sixth sense about them. They don't purr, they don't chirp, but they're highly, highly intelligent animals. I suppose. Do you call them animals if they're birds? Yes, I think we do.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because I've noticed actually that parrots are a very common pet for elderly ladies in particular.
Yes. Yes. Of all the things to have as pets, you've got a parrot that chirps at you the whole time. I suppose it matches women because we never ever stop chirping. I don't know. I would never have a parrot near me because they never ever stop talking. But there are a lot of old ladies who would love to have a parrot that they can chirp to, that they can talk to. It's company. It's comfort. Somebody to you feel important because you've got to look after that something. Do you remember that movie, The Green Mile, where he is a prisoner? That's yes.
Yes.
And when he's in the prison cell, he's completely alone. He's in solitary confinement. What does he befriend? He befriends a mouse, and he feeds the mouse, and he talks to the mouse, and it's something that he can connect to. It's all about connection.
So
At the
do
end
you
of the day,
think that it matters particularly what the animal is then? So some serve different purposes to others, but could it be, for example, a fish or something that needs to live in a terrarium like a spider?
No. You're not going to have spiders and spiders and snakes and that sort of thing that have got the ability to pick up on emotions with humans. I do believe it's dogs, cats, parrots, horses, but then elephants. Elephants have the other animal that fit into this incredibly healing capacity that a horse has. Now, we don't obviously use elephants for healing, but
No.
elephants have a sixth sense. They pick up on vibration like a dog does. They pick up on vibration like a cat does. And just as much as a horse will pick up on a vibration of, is this person vibrating very low or is this person vibrating very high? Are they stressed? Are they happy? Do they have pain? A horse will pick up on that. A dog will pick up on that. And an elephant will pick up on a vibration very, very quickly. Is it possible that I can talk about the elephant whisperer, Lawrence Anthony?
Yeah, absolutely.
He tells a story of a group of wild rogue elephants that he helped in the year 2000. He rehabilitated these elephants on his farm in South Africa. And he slept with the elephants, he fed them, he nurtured them for months and months and months and months before he let them go. And the elephants knew exactly who Lawrence was. They were completely and utterly devoted to him as their keeper. But over the years, I think it took 12 years, the elephants split up into two different herds, and they were on the farm on Tula Tula. And in 2012, Lawrence Anthony had, I think it was a heart attack, but he died. He did not die on the farm, but the elephants, where they were on Tula Tula, both herds picked up on the fact that he was dead, and they took 2 days to walk to the homestead where the storyteller Lawrence Anthony lived with his wife Francois. And they stopped at the house and they kept vigil there for 2 days because they knew that Lawrence Anthony had died. How did they know? Who told them? They picked up on the vibration. They picked up that his vibration was no longer on this earth plane. It had gone. So when you talk about a cat or a dog or a parrot, if you talk about them, they pick up on a vibration. And when that vibration is getting low and the energy in the body is not so astute anymore, they will tell the rest of the family, okay, this person on the bed, I know it is my master, but he's getting ready to die because his organs are shutting down. And with his organs shutting down, me as a dog, as a cat, I can smell the chemical that the organs give off when they shut down. And then as they start to shut down, the patient goes into chain stoking. Once again, the dog will pick up on the chain stoking. Why? Because the breathing has altered. And then when the patient takes the last breath, and the last breath is exhaled, and like the schnauzers who jump onto the patient's, their owner's chest, they know that the last breath is being taken because the vibration is gone. That vibrating soul has left. And that's what animals tell you. So it's always good to watch our animals, isn't it?
So can you tell us a bit more about the story of Joe and his schnauzers?
They were so cheeky. They were so cheeky, those little guys. He had 2 schnauzers who took forever to even allow me to come into the house. They just did not want me to come into the house. But once I'd made friends with these two little schnauzers and they realized that I was actually there to help, they allowed me to go into the house. But both schnauzers had been Joe's babies for many, many years. And they were well-behaved little boy and girl. And they slept on a cushion at the bottom of his bed. Very well-behaved. They would go off and have their little jaunt in the garden, go and have their food. But then they would come back and they would keep vigil. And they would watch and watch and watch Joe. And once again, both dogs were completely and utterly aware of Joe's breathing. They were completely and utterly aware of his organs were shutting down. He was busy dying. And the wife, who was also holding vigil for Joe, was very aware of the two dogs. And as I said to her, if you want to know when Joe's about to die, watch your animals, watch the dogs. And I didn't know the dogs were going to do this because it's the first time I've seen it. As Joe took his last breath, he was about to pop off. And I say pop off because I don't know how else to explain this. As he was about to take his last breath, both schnauzers got off their cushion on the floor at the end of the bed. They jumped up onto the bed and they both jumped up onto his chest. It was almost as if to say goodbye because Joe sat up, opened his eyes, saw everybody in the room, his wife and the two dogs, and lay down and died. And that was it. Why the dogs did that, I do not know. I've never, ever, ever seen anything like that or witnessed anything like that. It was amazing, actually.
Yeah, no, that is a beautiful story. So you've said, as with Dare, that animals are often the first to know when something is changing. Have you ever found that an animal has sensed a problem with the owner before any of the medical procedures or people have noticed or have highlighted it?
Not in the situation where the patient is diagnosed with cancer, for example. You know, if a patient is a new diabetic, the dog will pick up on the smell from the patient and he will alert, if he's been trained, he will alert the patient that the sugar is low or the insulin is too high or whatever. But there are situations where dogs have picked up that a dying patient is in ketosis and they will pick up that ketosis smell. Because very often with a cancer patient or all patients at the end of their life where they are not eating and the body is now in ketosis, the smell on the breath, you and I could pick that up very quickly. So a dog would pick that up. But I do not know of a dog diagnosing an incurable disease unless they are trained to do that. That is not an area of expertise for me at all. I do not know.
Fair enough. And something that I have come across before is that there are dogs that are being increasingly used for cancer screening. So that's
I have heard that.
yeah, but I'm not sure how widespread it is, but it's definitely something that people have been testing and using in medical environments in the last few years.
I have read that as well, but it is not something that has ever come into my scope of practice at all. But what has come into my scope of practice is dogs that alert a patient if he's going to have an epileptic fit, because there again, it's all to do with the smell. And if he's going to go into a coma, they don't tell you if it's too high sugar or too low sugar. The dog just knows that there is something amiss in the patient because of the smell. So he will alert the patient. The patient then does a blood test and thinks, okay, I need more sugar or I need insulin, and he then decides. But the dog alerts the patient in the case of a diabetic long before the patient goes into any sort of discomfort or coma. But with cancer, I don't have any experience at all.
In the book, there's another story about Peter and Maisie and their dogs. Can you tell us a little about how their dogs were part of Peter's final process?
Peter and Maisie had two dogs, Roxy and Ruby, and they were primarily Peter's dogs, but they were family dogs. So they knew that their their loyalty belonged to Rosie as well. And the one thing that Rosie did know, because I knew Rosie pretty well when I wrote the story, she knew that Roxy and Ruby were very close to Peter, and she wanted them to go through the whole death process with her. I don't think she did it consciously, but unconsciously, she allowed the two dogs to be very close to Peter when he was dying. She allowed them on the bed. Even when the mortuary, the ambulance attendant came, she didn't say to Roxy and Ruby to sit in the kitchen while we're moving this stretcher. No, Roxy and Ruby were very, very interactive with everything. I think they thought they were part of the whole show. And the two dogs were allowed to see the dead body. They were allowed to smell the smell that goes with the death. And they were involved in it because dogs have to process like we humans do. So it's important to see that the body is lifeless. Okay, I can accept that. Now, where are his clothes? Don't take the clothes away. Give the dogs a pair of old slippers so that they can process and say goodbye to their loved one in their own time. I don't know which of the dogs, Roxy or Ruby, were very, very close to Peter. I'm sure both. But both dogs took over their responsibility of taking care of Maisie when Peter died. They were family pets, and she allowed them to be part and parcel of the whole death procedure. And they just moved along as if they were part of the family. And that is what we should be doing.
So do you find that family pets often are important to the bereaved after their loved one has died?
Yes, very important. When we say to people, is your suitcase packed? We want to know about what is going to happen to our pet. Maybe I've got my partner who is staying behind. I've died. My partner will look after the dog or the cat or the whatever pet it is. But if that has not happened, you are not going to be very happy going on your journey with your suitcase, going to wherever it is you're going to when you die, if you have not made provision for your animal. People, many ladies in particular, they've got 4 dogs, and you will hear them talk. A friend of mine had a very nasty fall the other day, and she said, I don't know how to cope with my dogs. The most important thing for her was her dogs. So when you think you are getting old, you can't move, you've had a fall, you know you're going to die, that's imminent, whatever it is, you have to provide for your animals, because your animals have given you an incredible amount of solace when you needed it, excitement when you needed it, company when you need it. So it is for you to look after your animals and pack them in the correct suitcase when you die.
So do you find that that's a big part of the unfinished business that people need to resolve when they are ticking off their final bucket list and getting their affairs in order?
I think it should be put into the will, quite frankly, because no, it is not looked after. My mother passed away and she didn't think about her dog at all. I didn't know what to do with her dog because her dog was this highly neurotic little thing that only for my mother. And when my mother died, Yorna did not know what to do with herself. I think she would have pulled up her own bottom if she could have. She did not know how to cope with life because my mother wasn't there. Talk about a neurotic little dog. She was neurotic. So that little girl had to go to my sister. That little dog had to go to my sister because my sister was not working. She could take over where Mum had left off with Yorna, and she could look after the animal. It's terribly important to know who is going to look after your animals when you are not there. For an example, my son, his dogs are his life. He has already said, anything happens to him, Mother, you've got to take care of the dogs. Why? Because he knows that I'm the one who's going to look after them the way he's looked after them. They are your companions for so long in life. You can't just drop them off somewhere, put them into the SPCA. No, you have to find a home for them. But while I'm talking about this, something terribly important, because you're getting old, Does anybody out there who thinks they are aging and I'm too old to go and foster a dog? No, you're not. If you have got energy and you can walk a dog on a lead, you can still feed the dog and you're still pretty mobile, go and get a dog. If you want to foster a dog, please do not hesitate. Because one thing about an animal, if it can have 1 or 2 good years with you before you die, it's better than staying in a concrete cage. So yes, please foster a dog, foster a cat, foster anything, but I think it's important.
So, do you find that there's a separate bereavement process that the animal goes through when their person dies?
Yes, definitely. We think that animals do not pine for their masters. Yes, they do. And as I've just said a few minutes ago, the dog must go through, the cat must go through the process of pining. That's a good word, of processing why that their master is no longer around, their mistress is no longer around. They have to go through that process. And the way they go through that process, don't take all the clothes of that particular person that's died away. Give something to the animal. Give something to but if I have a son who's got 2 dogs, and when they go away, the dogs get very anxious. So what he does is he leaves something that smells of him on the dog's cushion, and then they're happy because they can smell him on their cushion. So it's all about looking at what the dog needs to get through that bereavement period. Yes, they do pine, they do miss their owners, and they have to go through that process.
To move along to other animals and non-domestic animals, you've already mentioned elephants and horses. And Candice in the book, her bucket list included swimming with dolphins. Do you think wild animals offer a different experience to domestic animals?
Yes, they do. They do. Animals, especially wild animals, they don't judge you. They merely offer you a connection to life. They offer you that protection. And a wild animal lives in the moment. Have you ever seen a dolphin swimming around preparing dinner? No, he's not. He's just swimming in the moment. Whatever comes past his nose, he's going to eat right there and then. They live in the moment and they offer protection. And that is why Candice was so hell-bent on going to swim with the dolphins. She wanted to find her connection with her spirit animal, and she drew solace from connecting with dolphins. She felt that a wild animal would never judge her vulnerability, and that was so important to her because she was going this alone. She didn't ask anybody to join her. She didn't ask anybody for advice. She went where she felt that she was going to get the correct, should I say, attention or the correct energy that she needed for healing. And it wasn't healing the cancer. It was healing her mind so that she could cope with what it was, because she was dying and she knew she was dying. And for her, the dolphins were the best form of healing, the best form of protection that she could get from what she was going through. That's why she went to swim with the dolphins.
So, because there's also a story in the book about butterflies, which is more to do with what they symbolize than butterflies themselves. Do you find that people have concerns with spirit animals or symbolic animals a lot in their final days?
I don't think they've got concerns, but I do think people should know who their spirit animal is. And many people inadvertently, they don't even know that it's their spirit animal, but they are attracted to it over and over and over, like Candice with the dolphins, like the story with the butterflies and the little girl who makes herself into a dolphin at the end because she sees herself as the protector of the family. The butterfly, I don't think, is anybody's spirit animal at the best of times, but the butterfly also indicates freedom. And when she made her mother, who was the patient who was dying in the book, when she made her mother into a butterfly and she surrounded that butterfly with other butterflies, she was saying goodbye to her mum and letting her mum go and giving her the freedom to go. But at the same time, she was saying, don't worry, mum. She was 9 years old. Don't worry, mum. I am the dolphin and I am the protector of the family. And that's what she did. She took over the family. She became her little brother's, not her mother, but she really did protect her family once her mother had died.
So for Sibby, she got butterfly tattoos after her mastectomy. What do you think that symbolized for her?
Total freedom. Total freedom. Here she was with the bilateral mastectomy. A lady loves her breast because it's a sign of her femininity. So when some butcher goes in and chops off both your breasts, you sort of feel, I've lost all my femininity. How am I ever going to be presentable in life again? But she sat in the sun. She got tanned. Her scars were beautifully, beautifully tanned. And she went off and she did her 2 butterflies had them tattooed onto her chest. And she never, ever, ever wore a top again. She was very proud of her butterflies. She wore a sexy little bikini bottom, and that was her. She strutted her number with her butterflies, and she was freedom. It symbolized freedom for her. She did well. She did really, really well with those butterflies. Everybody on the beach knew her with her butterflies. It was a lovely, lovely, lovely story there. Lovely.
So to move to practical concerns a little, as you say, lots of people worry about their pets when they're gone, and you think it should be something that's actually included in the will. What do you tell patients that are concerned about the strain their own death is going to put on their animals?
That is part of packing your suitcase, isn't it? That is part of saying to the person, I'm old already, and when I'm gone, this is what I need you to do with Roxy, my dog. I know Roxy's going to pine for me, so I want you to do A, B, and C. It's packing your suitcase. It's providing what you know your animal's going to need when you're gone. I mean, nobody anticipates they're going to die. But if you are old, or if you are really worried about somebody has to look after your family because there is no other person if you do die, then you make those provisions. You say to the person, in the event of my death, you're going to be the foster parents for my dogs. Do you agree? This is what they eat. This is what they like. So the dog does not go, and the dog is not stressed, or the cat is not stressed when its owner dies. It's going to be stressed anyway. Dogs have got feelings. It's going to be stressed, but allow them to process the death. The one thing that you don't do with a dog is take everything away of that owner that they were so close to, because they're going to look for that owner. You get a thing called watching the door syndrome or something, where dogs just watch the door, because they're waiting for that owner to come back. But if it is a situation where you've given the dog the slippers and he gets to see that the patient has died, hopefully the patient is his owner, has died at home, and he has been part and parcel of that. The dog sees the dead body. He knows the body's dead. He knows better than you do that the body's dead, because there is no more smell. There is no more energy. There is nothing. The dog gets that message long before we do. But if he doesn't get that message and the patient is in hospital, we've still got to allow the dog to go through that process of mourning. He's got to go through a process of mourning. So give him the clothes or the shoes or something so that he can associate that with the owner. I do not think a dog is like an elephant. I don't think a dog is going to pick up the vibration of that person who died in hospital like the elephant did. They're not going to pick that up. I don't think, but I might be wrong.
So on that note, you talk about how sensitive to these things animals are. Have you ever had to actually remove an animal from a space because it was suffering too much because of the distress its owner was in?
No, I've never been in this situation. I do believe animals will monitor their own energy levels, and they will rest and eat, and they will do whatever they have to do. They're not like us. They worry about themselves as well. There are exceptions to the rule when they know that there is nobody with that person, and that person, for example, their owner has fallen and bashed his head on the toilet and he can't move. And the dog will stay with him because he's still alive, and he will make very, very, very sure that the owner gets water. Even if there's a story about he gets the water out of the toilet and gives him the water from the toilet to drink. But I do not think that dogs necessarily know that they have to go. They don't stress themselves out to that extent. I think they know they have to go and be revitalized. They have to get the energy levels up again. I think they do. I did mention this to you. What do animals understand about death? Catherine Schultz. And I think this is just so poignant to our story today. The question isn't whether other creatures share our concept of mortality. It's whether any living creature, living being, truly grasps what it means to die. And do dogs grasp what it means to die? The only way they grasp what it means to die is when there is no vibration left, there is no smell left, and everything is gone. But if the patient is not right there, their owner, their loved one, right there with them, how do they actually know that the person is gone? They have to grieve. They have to go through the same process. Very, very, very difficult. Brings me back to please die at home. Please die at home with your animals. Make it into something where your animals are able to say goodbye to you.
Okay. So how do you get your animal fixed? Do you have a dog or a cat or a parrot? Are you aiming to get one?
No, I'm not aiming to get any of those things. I don't know why. I suppose I live in an area where we are not allowed. I live in a reserve where we are not allowed to have any of those. But for me, I think a dog or a cat it's imperative to have one in a family because they are part and parcel of growing up. It's just lately that I have not had a dog or a cat around me.
Well, and I suppose if you're living on a reserve, then you are surrounded by wildlife all of the time, right?
Totally. But it's a different wildlife. I'm surrounded by genets and otters and flamingos. That's what we're surrounded with, which are beautiful, but they don't actually talk to you. And they couldn't be bothered if I'm alive or dead.
Yeah, there's not much tactile contact there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Dale. I think that's all we need for today. For anybody interested, you can find Dying Ways in all good book and audiobook stores, and you can find books of practical wisdom narrated by me, Charles Featherston, at any audiobook store. Catch us next time for further discussions about death and dying.